Welcome to Health News and Views, a podcast dedicated to bringing some clarity to the health disparities in the Black and Brown communities. If you believe there's a connection between food, sickness, and health, then you're in the right place. Let's begin the process of unraveling the truth. And now, your host, Lynn Pete.
Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier. Hi, I'm your host, Lynn Pete. Well, over the last 3 years, I have explored chronic diseases and the effects on the Black and Brown communities. And the reason is that these communities hold the unfortunate distinction of being at the top of all charts as it relates to chronic diseases, for which there's no cure. Just lifetime maintenance. In the previous episodes, I have explored the causes and effects of diet and lifestyle, but have tiptoed around other factors. And this podcast will be a bit different from the other episodes. And I will take the next few episodes to do the following 3 things. I want to present you with the most up-to-date information and statistics. Number 2, I'm going to share with you what the statistics don't show. And that is the daily life of those who are walking the journey, like my family members and friends. And these stories are of those with one or more chronic diseases or have succumbed to them. Number 3, the resourcefulness and the dogged determination of those seeking an answer, a cure. Can they make lifestyle changes? Can they change their diet? Is that all it is? If it's not that, what is it? And why are there so many, as you'll hear, the statistics that the numbers just keep climbing. But before we get started, the subject matter provided in this podcast or any of our other published documents is for informational purposes only. Food, the Final Frontier, and our partner, Health News and Views, we do not attempt to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease or condition. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any lifestyle, dietary, or prescription drug changes. If you have never heard this before, there are 7 diseases that the CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control, National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health, have deemed the leading cause of death and disability in the U.S. And they are heart disease, cancer, chronic lung disease, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and chronic kidney disease. However, in this episode and the upcoming episodes, I'm not going to do all 7, but I will do 3. I promise that you'll see that those 3 critical ones that I'm going to address also lead to the other 7 or the other 4 of the 7. So, without further ado, I quoted from a CDC post in 2022 that the cost of healthcare in the United States was around $3.3 trillion. Well, by 2024, those costs shot up to $5.3 trillion and is expected to rise to 5.6 during 2025-26. Those kind of numbers, they're 6 times the defense budget, which is $886 billion, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. And those costs include government insurance, out-of-pocket expense, usually incurred by patients. But why is this important? Well, it's important for several reasons. Even as medical technology and treatments have made substantial advances, heart disease is still the number 1 cause of death in America. That's a lot of money spent on science. And we're still dying from heart disease, something that has been pivotal since at least the 1950s. The 2026 statistics indicate that 3 in 4 American adults now have at least one chronic condition. And that's one of the 7 that I just mentioned. That's up from 6 in 10. It was 6 in 10 when I read this report several years back. What is going on? Over 51% of Americans now live with 2 or more chronic conditions. In the first report, that was just 4 years ago, that number was 4 in 10. Now we're saying over half, 51% of Americans have 2 or more chronic diseases. There are now more obese and overweight Americans than there are underweight Americans. 1 in 3 people in the United States. These are just some statistics that I wanted you to hear about because I don't like all the numbers too, but they make sense because you got to see whether or not you're included in any of these numbers. They're saying now that 1 in 3 people is pre-diabetic. That's count 3 people. One of them could be you or not. And that more than 2 in 5 some recent estimates. And recent estimates are saying there might be 2 of 5. 1 in 3 people is pre-diabetic. Teens. And a recent CDC, again, Center for Disease Control report, also highlights that 1 in 3 teenagers is now pre-diabetic. Here's the problem. There's an awareness gap here. Over 80%, that's 8 of the 10 people that they're talking about, don't even know that they have prediabetes because they weren't checked for it. 1 in 10 Americans is now diabetic. Consider 10 people that you know. 1 of them is currently a diabetic. These numbers are staggering. The situation hasn't gotten worse. The situation has gotten worse, not better. Actually, for obese and overweight individuals in the United States, of which I am one, I'm considered overweight, even with my height and body mass. But actually, that 33% is now considered to be an underestimate. They're saying now that 40% of the U.S. adults are now classified as obese. They didn't say overweight, they said obese, 40%, while an additional 31.7% are classified as overweight. I'm in that category. Do you know that what that says is that 73% of the population in the United States is either obese or overweight? Houston, we've got a problem. Here are some recent trends and new definitions. The adult obesity prevalence maps, according to the CDC, indicate that as of 2024, every single U.S. state has an obesity rate of at least 25%, and some states exceeding 40%. That means the whole doggone state is obese or overweight. Do you live in that state? I don't know. They have maps now. The research went on to say that some health researchers are moving toward a new definition of obesity that includes waist. That's not waist like you throw out. They're talking about your waistline-based measurement rather than just BMI, which is your body mass index. Under this proposed criteria, researchers report that nearly 70% of U.S. adults would technically be classified as obese because many individuals with a healthy BMI still carry dangerous levels of abdominal fat. Okay, I'm sometimes in that class too. What about high blood pressure? The one I just mentioned, obesity and overweight, is one of the 3 that I'm going to actually cover, which is obesity and overweight is not part of the chronic diseases, but it's critical in 2 of the 7 that I am going to cover. High blood pressure. The statistic is frequently highlighted by the American Heart Association. And this is not overall, but this is just in the Black community, the prevalence of high blood pressure, approximately 55 to 58% of Black adults in the United States have high blood pressure. No, they didn't say they're developing. It didn't say that, no, they already have it. I'm one of them. Count me in that group too. The global context, however, says that this rate is among the highest in the world. And you may have heard me say that before because I reported that from the CDC, from the World Health Organization, that they reported that African Americans have the highest rate of reported blood pressure in the world. It's not just in the United States, but in the world. And the severity, hypertension in Black communities often develops earlier in life and is more likely to lead to severe complications like the heart failure, heart disease, and the kidney disease, chronic kidney disease that I mentioned as one of the 7. So this is why I'm covering these 3 because they're critical in survival. This is basic survival. If you want to live longer, you're going to have to make some changes, particularly in the Black and brown communities. And if you're not under that statistic, then make sure that you have taken heed to some of the suggestions that are going to be made on this podcast. And again, this is for informational purposes only, not to treat or diagnose. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any changes. But medical care in the hospital and clinics has increased. Prescription drugs have increased. And as salaries and benefits, they've remained static. And as many people in the Black and brown communities may have to rely on government subsidies just to stay alive. Since the beginning of 2026, you may have noticed that there's about 300,000 Black women who have lost their government jobs. That also means their health insurance as well. And many corporate companies are following the anti-DEI practices, which may mean good health, which means that the good health plans go along with the jobs. It's imperative that we maintain, by all means necessary, our health. The three conditions that are affecting my family are high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity. And the CDC has reported that there are more cases of obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure, and not less. In the very next episode, I will begin to share the first of several stories from my family and friends. The intention is to put faces on these clinical and medical diagnoses and the life-changing effects of chronic diseases. Stay tuned for the next episode of Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier, for a talk on, obesity. It's said that 80% of Black women are obese or overweight. What? Let's explore. Make it a powerful day and make sure to be a blessing to someone. And you are needed more now than you ever know. Please leave comments at eatingtostaywell@gmail.com. Peace.